Hello, dear viewers. This is Lumination. It's another little story for story time. This story is called Farewell, John. It is a tale of guilt and shame. And the reason Illumination is telling this story tonight is to live by example and make an example. About the whole concept, you got to reveal it to heal it. So this story is something that has been eating me alive since my youth, to the point like it's a fungus or a cancer. And it's the energy of guilt and shame that is the core theme of the story. And I'm sorry if this sounds all very bleak and very unappealing to the listener. However, it is a very, very common theme in humanity, and we all carry it. And what I've discovered personally is that the energy of guilt, and especially the energy of shame, is one of the hardest energies for us to carry in our bodies. And I can't carry it anymore. Even after I tell this little story, it's going to be pretty short and sweet. It doesn't solve anything. All it does is reveal it to heal it. And I'm hoping that in the revealing, there is some healing. And that for whoever listens to this, finds a way to reinterpret this story for themselves so that they can find a way to live with their own energies of guilt and shame in whatever aspect the energy of guilt and shame is operating in your life. Okay, so another reason we're doing this little story is because a couple of meetings had to be postponed. And Terra Illumination is all like geared up to be Terra Illumination. And then last minute postponements. I don't want to waste the time because it takes, let's just say, maintenance to keep Terra Illumination operating as Terra Illumination. So I'm taking full advantage of this platform, this amazing thing that we have here, the ability to create content and broadcast it to the world, where there are no restrictions, barriers, or boundaries except decency, community guidelines. And I know that Terra Illumination is deeply loved as a channel. I feel it from here. I feel it from you guys. I know it. And I love you guys too. So I'll keep the story short and sweet. Many years ago, let's just say Terra Illumination was into pop music and pop bands and rock bands and things. And in the early days, we had a little pop group. And lo and behold, it was actually really good. We were really, really good. And we got a lot of bookings. And people loved us. And we traveled here and there and everywhere that we could. And we had 2 trucks to carry ourselves and all our equipment. And the group had a name, and there was like 5 or 6 of us, depending on the night, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to get straight to the point here. You can fill in the blanks. There came a time where yours truly, Terra Lumination, felt that he had outgrown this band, this pop group, this situation, and that it was time to leave and move on. And so he announced unilaterally, without any consultation or talks with anybody or anyone, that he's leaving. I'm quitting the band. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And there was no prior knowledge, awareness, or anything. I can say that now in hindsight. The reality is nobody had a clue. I think inside of myself that I did, and I just chose a moment to make a decision. As you know, at Terra Illumination, we're very focused on the healing power of love in many different forms, including the healing power of your decisions. And Terra Illumination, as the person that he was at that time, made the decision to say, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. Love you guys. I gotta go. I gotta move on. And of course, the guys in the band were kind of shocked. Well, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do now? It's like, you're the singer. You write half the material. We're booked. We've got our agents and managers, and we're booked for this, and this event. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing, man? And I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And when I made that announcement, my dear brother was put in a very awkward position by me in my, what I feel now as rather like egomaniacal, selfish decisions, where my brother said, well, if he's going, I'm going too. I don't really feel like, he didn't even explain it. So all of a sudden, this great band that was doing really, really well, in terms of like aspiring pop music, wannabe pop star type stuff, traveling the region, doing their things. All of a sudden, that whole thing just went kapoof. It didn't exist anymore as it existed. And I left and my brother left simultaneously. I did feel a bit of guilt at the time. And as far as I can recall from the story, I don't know the depths of it. It's so long ago. I just said, well, just, keep the truck. And so that's what happened. And there was some, grumblings and mumblings of like, well, what are we supposed to do now? But they figured it out, and I knew that they would. So they brought in some stand-ins. They brought in a stand-in drummer, and one of the other guys did some singing, and they honored their contracts. They made the decision that they're going to honor their contracts like, decent, respectable people would do, with the agents and the managers and the venues and the punters, the audience. So there we go. John, dear John, was the bass player. And in a way, he was the rock. He was the anchor for the whole thing. All of it. John was an amazing fellow, had a heart of gold. And so did the rest of the guys. But John was the anchor. And we would rehearse at his house. He had an old farmhouse where he lived with his mom and dad. And, when we were young lads, that's how things were. And he had everything like tricked out for the band. The rehearsal rooms in the barn, all the gear, all the equipment and everything. All we needed is some guys to be in the band so we could all be pop stars. And John was really good at holding it all together and hosting it and everything. And his parents were very supportive too. Anyway, the next thing I knew, I had parted ways. My brother had parted with me. And a short time later, I got a phone call. I can't remember if it was one of the people in the band, one of the guys in the band, or his parents. And the phone call was very simple. They said, John's dead. And I said, what? They said, John's dead. And all the other guys are in the effing hospital. And I said, what? I said, yeah. Well, they honored their contracts. The story went like, this is what I was told. They honored their contracts. They went off to the show. And there was a big accident. Totally innocent. And the story, of course, is a tale of guilt and shame. And I wasn't there, so technically it's not my fault, but you'll understand in a moment what's going on. So here's the story that I was told later on. The guys were out going off to do the show. John decided he was going to drive the truck. And I guess they squashed all the equipment and everything, and themselves and the two new guys in the truck, and they went off to the show. As far as I can tell, they never even made it, because what I was told is, after the fact, what happened is that dear, wonderful, jovial, fun-loving, big fat heart John, he just wanted to have a smoke. He was so excited, thrilled to keep things going, even though he'd been abandoned by his two good mates, initiated by myself. What we know now as Lumination. So John was apparently driving in the truck. He wanted a smoke. He begged to smoke a cigarette off one of the guys. They handed it to him, and he said, I need a light now, man. And somebody from the back of the truck clicked a lighter and said, here you go, John. So apparently John turned his head around to get the light off the cigarette, and then kaboom. That was it. What I was told, and is that in that instant of turning, John had turned and the steering wheel kind of went out of alignment or something, or he lost it. And the truck went straight into the huge concrete structures that are used to support the bridges that cross over the top of big highways. So they went nose face first into the concrete structure at about 70 miles an hour, which is 100 kilometers an hour, in case you're in Europe and listening to this. And so the story was, I was told after the incident, is that John was killed instantly. Everyone else ended up in the hospital, and it was a very, very ugly mess. Now, as a young lad at the time, I just absorbed the story and the guilt and the shame and just dealt with it. It's like, well, okay. And a short while later, a funeral was arranged, and we were all invited because the rest of the guys who lived, they eventually came out of the hospital, and they were, more or less okay from what I can tell. And so my dear brother and myself, we go to the funeral and we show up. My brother's okay. He's comfortable and calm, neutral. Let's just say put neutral. And he's respectful and he's respected. My brother is a good man. But during the funeral, the the ceremony, it was very evident that um, I was probably not the most popular person in the room. Let's put it that way. And as the ceremony proceeded and everybody did their thing and then they left and everybody went home, no one would look at me and no one would talk to me. Sorry, John. Anyway, the funeral was over and everybody went home and lived their lives. And I don't know what happened after that to the rest of the guys. I couldn't talk to anybody. No one would call me, and I didn't want to talk to them. And that was the end of the story, basically. And all I'm telling you is that right now, here at Terra Lumination, along with this little story, there are a lot of other stories that are coming up that feel very similar, all about the energies of guilt and shame in various different forms or another. And this is just an example of a story about the energy of guilt and shame, which is an example, let's just say, to put this in context at the time of the telling of this story, where at a time of Jupiter in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, and Neptune in Pisces. And it's a beautifully powerful combination for the whole concept of you got to reveal it to heal it. So I'm taking full advantage and I'm living by example. I'm revealing it to heal it. And I'm just sharing this story with you. So what I'm trying to do is encourage you guys to reveal it to heal it. If you're carrying deep guilt and deep shame, I'm going to let you know that the energies of guilt and shame, it's like battery acid, okay? It eats you up and it scars you and it burns you for life. And it will continue to do that until you come to terms with the energy of the guilt and the shame and face the story full on, your own story. You have your own versions of this story inside of you, okay? No matter how grand or how trivial, the energy of guilt and shame is the same for everybody. There's no difference, no matter the scale. I'm just giving you my particular, this is just one little story. And this has haunted me for a long time. And I know that deep down, John does not hold this against me. At the level of spirit, we are forgiving and we are forgiven. But still, as a human being in a three-dimensional body, we can still hold traumatic shockwaves of guilt and shame for many years to come. And it becomes very corrosive. And all I'm suggesting is that the more you guys tune into the process of revealing to heal it, the better for you and the better for everyone else around you in your world, okay? So don't be scared to reveal it, to heal it, okay? It's very, very, very good for you. It's very, very good for your others and your loved ones and your dear ones. Even though it might not be fun, it might not be pretty, it's healing. There's no way that I can make amends to any of these people at this time anymore. This is a very old story. And it's kind of sad, kind of tragic. And this is just my way of saying farewell to John. But dear John was literally a truly blessed soul. He was literally just pure heart energy. And it came out in his voice, his words, his behavior, his music, his relationships, his conduct with other people. And I feel sorry that I let him down in this way. Dear John, please forgive me. I know you do, wherever you are in the great beyond. It was an amazing experience to know you and hang out with you and be your mate. So thank you very much, dear listeners. Please reinterpret this for yourself and allow this to trigger your own stories of guilt and shame to come to the surface for your own healing and your own revealing. And ask, don't be scared to ask for forgiveness. Okay? When you've lost a loved one, understand that they understand you from the other side. They understand your guilt, they understand your shame, but they love you anyway. Okay? So I'm just letting you know. Thank you very much for listening. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.